Most gardeners water too often, not too much at once, too often. And the damage it causes looks almost identical to underwatering, which means most people respond by watering even more. That is the root rot trap. Your plants wilt, the soil looks dry on top, you assume they need water, so you water again. And the roots, which may have been sitting in saturated soil just a few inches below the surface for days, start to suffocate. By the time yellow leaves appear or stems begin softening near the soil line, the real damage has already been building underground. The frustrating part is that nearly every symptom of overwatering, drooping leaves, slowed growth, curling foliage, looks exactly like drought stress from above, and the fix for one problem makes the other worse. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you how to tell the difference, why the usual watering advice fails, and the simple change that prevents root rot in most home gardens. Stay to the end, because I will show you a 10-second soil test that tells you exactly when to water without guessing. First, we need to understand what is actually happening beneath the soil surface. Most gardening advice says to water deeply once or twice a week. That sounds clear and practical, but it ignores three things that completely change the equation: soil type, mulch, and temperature. Clay soil holds water for days. Sandy soil drains quickly. A heavily mulched bed may stay moist twice as long as bare soil. When gardeners follow a fixed watering schedule, they unknowingly create long stretches where the soil never fully drains. And roots need that drainage cycle. Roots do not just absorb water, they also absorb oxygen. Healthy soil contains tiny air spaces between particles. After watering, gravity slowly pulls excess water downward, and fresh oxygen moves back into those spaces. That oxygen is what root cells use to stay alive and transport nutrients through the plant. When watering happens again before the soil has drained and re-aerated, those air pockets stay filled with water. Oxygen disappears. Roots begin to suffocate. Once roots weaken, opportunistic fungi move in and start breaking down root tissue. That is root rot. It is not caused by water itself. It is caused by the absence of oxygen that constant watering creates. In other words, the plant is surrounded by water but unable to use it. The first visible sign is usually wilting that does not recover overnight. A healthy plant might droop slightly during the hottest part of the afternoon and then perk back up in the evening once temperatures drop. That is normal. But when a plant stays wilted into the next morning even though the soil is still moist, something else is happening. The roots are compromised. The fine root hairs responsible for absorbing water have been damaged, so the plant cannot move moisture upward even though the soil around it is wet. Other signs appear slowly: yellowing leaves beginning at the bottom of the plant, growth that stalls for no obvious reason, or stems that feel soft right at the soil line. If you dig up a plant with advanced root rot, the roots will be dark brown or black and soft instead of firm and white. Healthy roots look almost bright, pale, fibrous, and slightly crisp when you pull them apart. Rotting roots feel limp and break easily between your fingers. By that stage, recovery is difficult, which is why prevention matters so much. The biggest shift is abandoning the idea of watering on a schedule. Instead of watering on certain days of the week, water based on what the soil actually needs. In most vegetable gardens with 2 or 3 inches of mulch, watering happens less often than many people expect. Early in the season, it might be once every 5 to 7 days. During hotter summer weeks, it may increase to every 3 or 4 days, but those are ranges, not rules. The surface of the soil dries quickly from sun and wind, especially in raised beds. Raised beds in particular dry out faster than in-ground gardens because they are exposed to air on all sides, which means evaporation happens from the top and through the walls simultaneously. That dry top inch is what triggers the instinct to water again, but just a few inches below, the soil may still contain plenty of moisture. I once spent an entire season overwatering a set of raised beds because the surface looked dry every morning. When I finally dug deeper to check the soil profile, the root zone was still damp from the previous watering. The plants were not thirsty, they were drowning. That one discovery changed how I approach every new growing season. Now, the first thing I check before any watering decision is what is happening below the surface. not above it. The solution is simple and takes about 10 seconds. Before watering, push your finger into the soil to the second knuckle, roughly 2 to 3 inches deep. If the soil feels cool and moist at that depth, wait another day. If it feels dry and crumbly, water deeply and slowly. Deep watering means allowing moisture to soak 8 to 10 inches into the soil instead of just wetting the surface. A slow drip or gentle hose for 30 to 40 minutes works much better than a quick spray that never penetrates past the top layer. Deep watering encourages roots to grow downward towards stable moisture rather than staying near the surface where heat and evaporation fluctuate rapidly. Shallow watering produces shallow roots, and shallow roots create plants that wilt quickly and demand even more watering. It becomes a cycle that feeds itself. Frequent watering creates shallow roots create fragile plants, and fragile plants make gardeners water even more often. Most gardens I have looked at that struggle with mid-season decline have this exact pattern running underneath everything else. Mulch changes this entire cycle for the better. 2 to 3 inches of organic mulch, straw, shredded leaves, or wood chips slows evaporation and stabilizes soil temperature, which means moisture remains available longer without creating constant saturation. Mulched beds often hold usable moisture 40 to 60% longer than bare soil. That alone can take you from watering every 2 to 3 days to watering every 5 or 6, depending on your climate and soil type. Timing also matters. Water in the morning whenever possible so the soil surface has time to dry before nightfall, which reduces fungal pressure. If mornings are not possible, late afternoon is the next best option. Midday watering is not harmful to plants, but it evaporates quickly and wastes water. The real goal is not perfectly dry soil or constantly wet soil. The goal is rhythm. Water moves into the soil, roots absorb what they need, oxygen returns, and the cycle repeats. 2 gardens in the same neighborhood can receive the exact same rainfall and irrigation and still perform completely differently. The difference is almost always structural: soil composition, mulch, spacing, and watering depth. Gardeners who avoid the root rot trap are not watering more carefully. They have designed their soil environment so water behaves predictably. Once that system is in place, watering becomes easier instead of stressful. Plants develop deeper root systems, tolerate heat better, and the kind of sudden mid-season collapse that frustrates so many gardeners becomes rare. And if you are trying to stabilize watering cycles right now, watch the mulch system video next, because mulch is the single fastest way to keep moisture levels balanced and protect the root zone through the entire season.